part 2 of the merge collector video. Now at the end of the last video, what I finished on was this point here. Now this is actually a different one from the video last time because I used it on a job that I'm doing and I didn't have time to do the video first. So this is the other one, welded up on the inside, and it's just got an external wastegate takeoff tacked in place there because I'm not finished with this job. And then all these pipes across the back, these are part of the manifold that I'm currently doing. But I needed to do another collector for this jig, so I thought I'd pick up the video here. So last time I told you I was going to linish down this on the belt sander to get it flat, but what I did last time and what I'm doing again here is just used this surface gauge with a scribe in it, pick up the lowest corner or the lowest point out of this collector, which I think was this one, and then just scribe myself just a light line around there. If you're really fussy or you struggle to see the line, you could put an engineer's blue on there to make it a bit clearer, but it's not too much of an issue. But I just scribed that round there, move that out of the way. Now you just about see the line here, and then what I'll do, just to speed things up so you're not on the sander too long killing the belts, is I'll take a slitting disc and I'll just cut them close to them lines, or maybe even on them lines, and then I'll finish it up on the sander. It'll just be a bit quicker than doing the whole thing on the belt sander because that's quite a lot to take off. Where's our little steel rule? We just see what we're sort of taking off on the corners, and you sort of 5mm that's got to come off, so you don't want to do that all on the belt sanders, you'll be there all day. So yeah, we'll cut these off with a slitting disc and then I'll clean it up on the sander and I'll bring you back. So there's the flange cleaned up with just a little tiny bit shallow just on this corner here, but it's close enough for what we need. just deburr it. And there we have it, cleaned up. It's a little bit off on that inside corner, you can see there, but once we fuse that on the inside you're not going to see that. So what I want to do now is just check we're nice and flat. And then you can see there that we've got absolutely minimal gaps, which is going to help you when you come to welding it to the flange. Now this one I'm doing is actually a second mock-up. This is the original one that I've actually made the manifold with, and I've took it apart to tack weld the pipes. These are the runners for the manifold that I'm currently doing. I've got the jig for this down there, and I'll be able to put some pictures of the manifold at the end of the video. But for example, one of the headers will be coming up and joining on, say there, actually it's the other way, so that'll come from the header there, and then that might join up on that one there. That could be that runner, not 100% sure without looking at the jig off the top of my head. But this collector that I'm doing here is actually a second one for this. So one's for the car, then one's for like my master copy. So I need to make sure the measurements of this match the measurements of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep working on this one until I get the same height, the same width and everything, so this fits onto the jig the same as that one and everything meets up. So I'm just going to get that to size and I'll bring you back. So your collector, Mr. Foire, we welded it up just now to the flange. It's come out all right. I need a bit more practice on these. We've got it in there. We kept half decent colour, but I'd like a bit more coverage. We fused the inside first. Now I haven't gone around yet. I'm going to let this cool down and go again, and I'll weld on the inside around here as well. But we fused all the inside there before welding this outside, and I don't know if that means you don't keep so much colour around there or not. So I think it's going to be a bit of trial and error as I do more of them. Obviously get better, but that'll look pretty cool in the car. So I'll get that bolted to the turbo. We'll get the turbo where we want it in your car, and then we can start tomorrow joining it up. Here's the purge block that we're going to be using. Now this is a real basic, nothing special block. This is actually a fixture plate that I used for welding V-bands on. I'll just show you one of them. We'd unbolt these plates, sit that under there, bolt them back down to keep that clamp down to there, to try and minimise warpage, and use the big thick alley block as a heat sink. And because I haven't got many big blocks, I haven't got any big blocks to be fair to use this, I've turned it up, and what I've done is I've got my T3 template, and I've drilled and tapped 4 holes. It's M10 bolts on the flange, but because we're limited on space in some of these corners, especially this one here, what I've done is rather than tapping it M10, I've tapped it M8, and I'm using these countersunk screws because if they have a very shallow head depth on them, and they will easily get into these corner areas. The only bad thing is I have to do them up all the way by hand before I can snug them with the Allen key, but they do fit in there nicely, so that solves that issue. And some of you might ask what the huge lump of alley is on the end of there. That is a heatsink and another clamp that I machined up on the Harrison, and this is basically mimicking this half of the external wastegate. So this piece here has been machined onto the end here, and then I clamp this up for when I weld around this flange. So this will act as a heatsink and keep this flange clamped down and minimise the warpage. If it does warp a little bit and it's not quite true, then we can always put it on the belt sander and we can flatten it out, but hopefully we shouldn't have to with this on there. So what I'm going to do now, you can see the teardrop take off that I've got there. I'm going to give this a wipe over because it's been sitting around for a few days and it's probably a bit dirty and a bit greasy, and then I'll fix this onto here, tape up these top holes, and I'll weld that section there. All I've done on this block for the purging is I did drill a hole through here, but that's going to get in the way in that position, so I've re-drilled it in the side. This goes all the way through to this hole here. So once the flange is bolted down, you'll see the hole in there, which is going to feed the argon off of either dual flow meter. So this one is for the purge and this one is my main hose, and then this hose here I'll just seal into there, goes all the way in, you can see that there. I'll just put that in there and then keep that there with a bit of tape, and then that's ready to weld up. I'll show you that in a moment. So we now have this ready to weld up. So we've got our heat sink there for the wastegate flange. We've got the top of these taped off with foil, just a little tiny pinhole in each one to let the air out as the argon fills it up, and there's the argon tube there. So I'm going to get this turned on now, get it purged and get the welder on, and then we'll weld around this teardrop here, around this joint here, and then around the flange joint. I'll bring you back when we're welding. Okay, so the block's been purging nicely, and now we'll go ahead and we'll weld around it. It's a very tight spot in there, quite difficult to get to. So for the first bit, we'll do that bit first, and we're going to be heavy gas flow and a lot of stick out on this. And then as soon as I've done that bit, I'll reduce the stick out. Not going to be the best shots for you, but we'll get you in to see what we've got. the stick out on this may look huge, but what you'll see is when you're welding things like this, regardless of the stick out you've got, you get good gas coverage because you've got gas purging from the back side as well. So it's not half as bad as it looks. I think when I make the next one of these, I'll move that up a few millimeters, maybe 5-10 millimeters, because there is no need for it to be as close as it is. It's just what I done at the time, and now when you come to weld it, you find out that these things are what give you a little bit of a problem. So again, we'll just put a huge stick out on there to get in this final little section right at the back here. And you know you're getting good gas coverage when you get a really nice crisp start up there. What you don't want to do is what I've just done there. I just arced out and touched the tungsten on the edge of the flange, because I've got such a tight space here, which is my own fault really. No forward thinking. But you live and learn. Now that's still purging, but let's just try and lift it up and we'll show you in there. We've got a nice weld all the way around, and you can just see, unfortunately, difficult there, but you can see where my thumb is, where I arced out on the edge of the flange. I'm not going to be able to show you in that back corner very well, I don't think. It's just not going to show up, but it's in there and we got round there. What I'll do quickly is where I touch down on the edge of the tungsten, so I'll clean that before I carry on, and then we'll weld round the flange and the actual pipe joint. Just clean that up and polished it up there on the buffing wheel. Once I've ground it on the belt sander, now we'll come back in and I'll weld round the joint between the two sections of the Schedule 10. Still got a purge going on. I think I'll weld over the top first. We're using 1mm 308 filler rod, and we're running at about 120 amps max, but we're on the foot pedal. coming on this back side. I'll just use something to prop this up. See what I can find here, what I've got. Prop it up nicely. I'm just going to need a bit more stick out. Just coming over this top side because I'm quite close to this block. Now when we turn it here, we want to be careful not to squash the filler tube. And that will just work out nice there. There we are around there, and then our last bit is to go around the flange. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tilt it out this way, give myself a rest there. Actually going to come forward towards me a little bit so it's more comfortable, and we work it from here. I could ideally do with a bigger filler rod, but I haven't got one. Got a bit of contamination, something in there. Need to clean that. I'm not sure what happened there, to be honest. We'll leave that purging and clean that up. We didn't touch down, it just didn't like that edge. What I'm going to do now, I don't need so much stick out, which I should have really done a minute ago, is I'm going to change this big lens out. The smaller one's going to allow us to get right in there, because if that was contamination through lack of coverage, then that's what I need to do, is change lenses. So this is real life, real-time issues that I'm coming across, because again I'm no expert. This is the first one of these I've actually fully done. definitely need to pre-think about the position and how you're going to get to these sometimes when you're welding them, because I really haven't left myself an easy job getting to this one, unfortunately. Best way to go but this one is going to be. Might have to do something along the lines of that. See how we get on with it. A little bit more stick out on this last bit. Not a lot, but we need a small amount more. Drop that into there without squashing the tube. And there we have it. Let's turn the gas off. Move that out of the way. And I'll bring you in here just to show you. Now, I'm not overly happy with the flange. It's not the best. The rest of it come out nice. The teardrop come out really nice. The flange, the fit up didn't help because the Schedule 10 was not the right size for the flange, so it had quite a decent, if you look there at the step, had quite a good gap all the way around it. And as I mentioned earlier, the 1mm filler rod didn't make it the easiest. We got contaminated a little bit there from something, not sure what, possibly poor coverage, but the rest of it in there come out quite nice. So overall, as a first attempt, I'm quite happy. And then we can now let this cool. That's it for today, and then we'll go ahead, get this mounted back on the jig on here, and then we'll start putting our runners up and start welding them fully. We'll see you soon.